Welcome to the Priority Zero podcast. Stories of service.
Welcome to the Priority Zero podcast. My name's Aresti, and today with us we have a good friend of mine, been friends for many years. We kind of grew up together. Michael Hatzi is a Navy veteran, and he joins us today to share his story. So, Michael, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
No worries, mate. Look, I appreciate you coming on. You have a very different approach to a lot of other people that I've had on the podcast, as in you were a dental assistant with the Navy for over 10 years. So I'm really interested to kind of share that story and teach people about a different path. Like, you don't have to go in the military, just for those combat roles. There's a lot of other career paths that you can pursue through the military. So thank you for coming on, mate. So tell me a little bit, what inspired you to join the Navy or the Defence Force in general?
Yeah, Aresti, I just needed a stable income. I was 20 years old. I was in a job where I wasn't happy. I wasn't making enough money. I needed to find myself a proper career. And I must say, the ads on TV, the recruitment ads for the Defence Force, they inspired me. And I started doing some research. I researched tri-service, Army, Navy, and Air Force. And I had always liked medical, dental, like the medical field. So when I saw that you could become a dental assistant in the Navy, I thought, oh great, I'll join as a dental assistant and get trained up to be a dentist. That was my ultimate goal, to be a dentist. So I pursued that. I enlisted. There was a 2-year wait for a position. I didn't mind which service I got into. The Navy just happened to have a position first. So that's how I ended up in the Navy, and I joined in September 2003.
So from the time that you put in your, I guess, expression of interest, you put in your application, you had to do, I believe, like a U session to see what you were eligible for. It was 2 years from you done that to when you got in.
Yeah. So the paperwork, it was hard copy back then, pen and paper. It was actually pretty straightforward. So I remember there was a few bits of paper, like half a dozen sheets that you had to fill out that briefly covered everything. There was an appointment with a doctor and an appointment with a psychologist or counsellor, and that was it. So health screening, application, and an aptitude test as well. So those three things, as long as you were successful in those three things, and I think that happened it didn't take long, though, one after the other. It wasn't a long process. Getting approved to join, like passing to join, that was pretty straightforward. The most draining or the stressful bit was just waiting for a vacancy, and that took nearly 2 years.
Wow. So how did it feel? So did you get a phone call from a recruiter saying there's been a job opening and this job opening is for the Navy? Are you interested?
I can't quite remember. But what I was doing, right, like back in the year 2000, 2001, 2002, that's when we had analog phones. So I had my first phone, and I would actually, I would ring them on my lunch break every day, asking for an update. I can't remember if they called me or they might have sent me a letter in the mail. Yeah.
Do you remember roughly from when you got that letter to when you left for your first lot of training?
No, but it was pretty quick. It was a matter of months. As soon as I accepted, they booked my flights. Yeah.
How did you feel when that letter came?
I was very happy. I was like, finally, I'm off to. I'm about to start a new chapter in my life, a new endeavor. I was excited. I had never lived out of Darwin. 22 is still pretty young. To me, it was an adventure as well as a new career. Yeah.
Were your family supportive of this roles? I mean, I'm Greek, you're Greek. The families are not really supportive generally of their kids going into the defence force, even though, in Greece, if you're born in Greece, it's a conscription army over there and every male does it.
Yeah.
How did your parents...
Well, they weren't ecstatic, but they didn't disapprove either. They were very civil about it. And once they understood what I was getting into, then they became very supportive, and they were happy.
Nice. So tell me about when you first got into your basic training. I know for the Army it's called Kapuka. What is it called for the Navy?
Yeah, recruit school.
Recruit school. Tell me about recruit school. Tell me about your arriving at recruit school for the first time. What was that like?
Cold. So recruit school goes for 11 weeks. You arrive there.
Where's it based?
In Western Port Bay, Victoria. So I remember getting off the plane at the airport, jumping on a bus with a few of us from Darwin flew together. You get to Melbourne Airport, Tullamarine Airport, and you're waiting around. You're waiting for other flights for other recruits that are coming from other areas of Australia. So I think we were at the airport for like 2-3 hours waiting. And finally we get a busload of new recruits from all over Australia, and we make our way down to the recruit school. Remember getting there at night, everyone's tired, but you've got to sit down in the classroom and fill out paperwork. First time getting spoken to by a regimental person, by senior sailors, was a bit confronting. I think they sort of do it
Come a little bit closer.
I think they sort of do it on purpose. Just to be hard on purpose, just to be smart. So they throw their rank around a bit on the first day. It was a big culture shock. 11 whole weeks. So you're racked up with the 6 people to a room. I think that on the second. So the very next day, we actually did our swim test first up. There's no mucking around, straight in the water. Swim test.
What did the swim test involve? Can you remember?
Yeah, so it involved an underwater swim. It involved... So you're in overalls and runners, right? Full coveralls and runners. Underwater swim, you've got to stay afloat on your back for a certain period of time. And that was the stuff that was done in the pool. Then they take you out to the port, to the wharf, and pretty much do an abandoned ship exercise where you've got to get dressed up. The ship is sinking, right? You've got to get dressed up in a thermal protective suit, jump into the freezing cold water, and swim to your life raft and do the whole survival at sea thing. Even though it was September and it was in the middle of winter, that water was, my God, it was freezing, so cold.
Especially coming from Darwin.
Coming from Darwin, yeah. Like I said before, it was a culture shock. Physical, emotional, mental. Now, those thermal protective suits, they don't really keep you that warm. I got my core body temperature got that cold where I started to go unconscious. That's how cold it was. But yeah, I got through that. We did our STI training, so at the range, your firearm training, you do a lot of drill, like marching. You learn all about your different uniforms that you wear at ceremonials, regular, like general working uniform, summer uniforms, winter uniforms. You become an expert at making your bed. Everything is shiny and clean, your boots, you get inspected. Rounds were at 6 a.m. every morning.
How'd you go with the ironing?
Oh, look.
I've heard lots of horrible stories.
Nah, look, I'm a perfectionist. I'm very fussy. I didn't have a problem. As long as you get a good iron, that's a steam iron. That's the trick that I learned. Get a good steam iron. So you have rounds every morning. You have EMA, early morning activities. which is at about 5 a.m. I think 5:30 for most mornings, every second morning or something like that. Then you have classwork. You learn all about different classes of ships. I can't remember if there was a first aid part of it. Oh, and within the first week too, how can I forget? In the first week is where you get all your inoculations. So you're getting jabbed in the arm, left, right, and center, all your vaccinations. So you're in the health center all day just lining up, tetanus in one arm, measles, mumps, rubella in the other, tuberculosis, screen, you name it. But that's actually good because I came out with the vaccination book with everything in it, and I still use it to this day, like when I travel and stuff. Inoculations. So what have we gone through so far at the range? Inoculations, survival at sea, swim test, uniforms, your class work, a lot of theory work, drill, pretty much every day. In the morning you do your colours, which is pretty much a flag raising of the flags. You do the same again in the evening. Now eating. So you go to domestic, right? It's called SCRAN, SCRAN, and that stands for shit cooked by the Royal Australian Navy. So the SCRAN hall, it's just rushed. Like you got to line up, and they don't serve you as much as you want, or what you want. You've got to sit down and eat it quickly before you've got to get up again. You're not just let to go to lunch on your own. You've got to go there. Everything you do in recruit school is as a squad, as a class. You go to dinner together. You go to PT together. You go everywhere together. You're all accountable. You're all in line. You all walk at the same pace. It's like you're just one unit constantly for 11 weeks. So when you go to eat, it's the same. You got to eat together and leave together. So if time's running short and you're the last one in line, you may only get to sit down for 2 minutes, just coffee food down before you've got to get up again.
And the food was no good?
Oh,
very subpar?
It's pretty average.
And that was when they had the Navy chefs, because I know a lot of it now is outsourced. Like I've eaten on defence base before when I've been an instructor with the Air Force cadets. I've been to RAF Base Edinburgh, I've been to RAF Base Pierce and RAF Base Darwin.
Yep.
And the Air Force food was actually quite good.
Mm. Well, back then at HMAS Cerberus, 2003, it was still run by the Navy cooks, and they serve you. They don't put you much, and it's pretty average. But yeah, you're right. I remember going to the Randwick Army Base in Sydney for a bit, and that was totally different. Like, better variety of food, a lot more of it, and there's no one there standing watching over you. You just serve yourself, and it's great. So I think it's just situational where you are, and I think the recruit school as well, being in such a massive school with so many people, they probably monitor the food very heavily, just to stop wastage and stuff. I don't know, I'm just guessing. 11 weeks go by. At the end of it, it's towards graduation. At the end of it, you have your graduation. You do so you've got to pass everything. You have to pass your annual. You got to pass your physical test. You got to pass your rifle shooting. You get marked. Get marked at drill. You get marked with uniform. It's proper school, like a tape course, like university. You got to make sure you pass everything. You can't just sit there. There's markings. There's also a mud run towards the end of the 11 weeks where you dress up in coveralls and you go out into the bush, and there's like a track that through the creeks and up hills, and you got to run under nets crawl under nets in the mud and climb over barricades and do stuff like that.
So like an obstacle course sort of thing.
Obstacle course, yeah. And then on the final day, graduation day, you're on the parade ground and you do your march out, and that's the day when your family and friends can come and watch you.
Can we talk about what you felt like coming out of that?
Yeah.
After 11 weeks and, coming to the end and passing everything, did your family come and watch you?
Yeah, Dad came up.
Yep.
Dad came down to Victoria, so thanks, Dad. That was lovely. It was very nice to have a family member there for support. I really appreciated that. You feel a sense of achievement. You feel like you've conquered a little goal. And yeah, I've got to admit, it was a proud moment.
Nice. But that's not the end of the training, is it?
Oh, that's just the beginning. You ain't seen nothing yet.
So, just so I've got this correct. So your recruit course that you do, that's the basic course that everyone, doesn't matter what MOS or what job you do, go and do. Basics of being a sailor. And then from there you go into, I guess, what's your IETs, your initial employment training, which is job specific to your role.
Yeah.
So where did you go for that?
Yep, that's right. So recruit school trains you to be a sailor, number one. That's it. Everyone graduates there as general entry sailor. After that, you go into your category training. So within HMA, so HMA service is the entire naval base. The recruit school is one part of it. Within HMA service are the category schools. So you'll have your marine technicians over here, you'll have your bosuns over here, you'll have your medics over here, the medical center, your cooks and stewards over there, etc., etc. So my dental training was at the exact same place at HMA service, so I didn't have to go too far. However, after recruit school, I actually came home for Christmas leave. Then I believe, now I can't remember if I went back to HMA service to continue my category training or whether I actually went to my first posting. So I finished my recruit school in 2003, and then in the first 6 months of 2004 at some stage, I started my category training, and that was the HMA service, and that went for about 6 weeks, I believe. That was the first dental assistant course. The initial dental assistant course went for about 6 weeks.
And what did that involve? How many people were in that course with you?
Not many. So the dental branch in the Navy is quite small. There would have been maybe 3 other people. So 4 of us all up.
And what sort of training does that involve when you go into that role?
Every day we need to attend instruction at the health center, run by dental officers and dental senior sailors and other dental auxiliaries. It involves theory and practical chairside assistance with the dentist and patients. You learn all about sterilization and infection control. So basically how to be a proficient dental assistant, what's called a dental nurse in civilian practice. Yeah.
Nice. And how long was that training all up from the time you started? I think you said the first block was about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Start to finish before you got the tick of approval that you're good to go.
Okay. Actually, the initial DA's course, dental assistance course, was actually a bit longer than 6 weeks. I apologize. I can't remember exactly, but it was a bit longer. So I did my initial DA's course. Then I went to my first posting, and that was at HMA Stirling in Perth, WA. I worked there for the remainder of 2004. Then in 2005, I went back to HMA Cerberus and completed my senior dental assistance course, and that went for 6 weeks.
Yeah. What was life like in Perth, coming from Darwin and then moving to a bigger city like Perth, where the draw cards is like you can swim at the beach?
Yeah.
Which is something we lack in Darwin. We've got a lot of beaches, but you can't swim in them.
Oh, but I actually like Perth for those reasons and more. So HMA service is not a training facility, so it's a lot more relaxed. Which is what made it good. What made it nice. You just get up, go to work in the morning, come back, and do your own thing. You're not monitored. The cabins are bigger, because now you're ranked. You're not a trainee, you're not a recruit anymore. So you get a bigger cabin. It's pretty much just.
Would it be like working as a dental assistant in the civilian world, like a 9 to 5 sort of role?
Right. So it was good. I lived on base, and I worked at the health center on base, and everything was within walking distance. From my cabin to the mess deck to the health center, everything was within walking distance. So I get up in the morning, go and have breakfast, go to work your normal 9 to 5, then come home. Working at HMA Sterling was good. I worked with a good team. You pretty much work with one dentist, and that's when I got to use all of my skills that I learned on my dental assistance course. And then I guess it starts to go more from novice learner to more of a capable DA. It starts to transition more into just an occupation. So you get into a routine, you become proficient, you start signing off your competency logs, you become more senior in your role. Once you do enough short time as a dental assistant, that's what equips you to be able to go and work alone just with the dentist and yourself as a team out at sea to be able to deploy.
So when you're on the ships, you actually have, I suppose, probably just the bigger ships, not like the Armidale class boats, but the bigger ships, you'll have a dental facility on there.
No, deploying as a dental assistant sucked.
Really?
Because our ships, they don't have a facilities on board. They don't have a dental department on board, a dental clinic, a dental surgery. There's no compartment on the ship specifically designed for dental. So
you're missing a lot of the equipment that you need to be able to do your job proficiently, yeah?
They haven't got nothing. They haven't got anything. The medics are all right. They've got their own, what's it called?
Like a medical room sort of thing, a facility on board?
Yeah. But for dental, there's nothing. So, man, we had to take everything, compressor, chair, dental setup, with a table, all your instruments packaged up in plastic Pelican boxes, just like what you've got your setup here. Sterilizer, which weighs a ton, distilled water, trunks, like, those plastic trunks that are like...
the military trunks, I know the ones.
Yeah, those filled up with all your consumables, all your medicaments. Everything that you see in a dental practice that you would use, that the dentist uses on yourself, tissues, daily wipes, disinfectant, whatever.
But you need an autoclave as well.
An autoclave,
you know what I mean? Because you can't just, wash anything underwater. They've got to be properly disinfected as well.
You need an autoclave. You need a bath to be able to wash the instruments first and dry them before you can pouch them and put them in an autoclave. So all this stuff needs to be prepared, packed. You make your, list, right? And you can't miss a thing. You forget something, you're stuffed. You can't just turn the ship around and go back and get it. It doesn't work that way. Inventory. So you double check and triple check your inventory. And you need to carry everything on board. Well, that's the tricky bit, right? Because when you're on Anzac class ships, which is what I deployed on, you have to find room. Like literally, you got to find room. So sometimes we would set up in the aft deck, just somewhere where there was a corner with a bit of room and a couple of PowerPoints. There was once on HMAS Toowoomba where we squeezed into the medical clinic. There was another time on HMAS Stewart where we set up outside in the hangar on the mezzanine deck, right? And setting up is the biggest challenge because you got to find somewhere where there's power and water nearby. So you got to set up your portable chair, your trunks, and strap them all down because the ship's always moving, right? Yep. So everything's stable, nothing moves. You carry transformers so you can transform the power to 240 from the ship's power. There's extension cords running everywhere. You got to make it safe. You got to set up not just your dental chair where you and the dentist look after the patient. You got to set up a separate area for sterilizing. and you could makeshift tables, makeshift shelves. Yeah, so like a complete setup. Yeah, you got to be very creative.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome. Is that right?
Absolutely, and you just got to ask for a lot of help, and it's a team effort. Yeah, so you're working in uncomfortable conditions for the time for the whole period. Like you come back to the land-based dental department and you walk into the dental clinic and you're like, whoa, this is luxury. Look at all the room. Everything has got its own drawer, and like there's heaps of room, and I can move around. And you put something on the bench and it doesn't roll off. It's great.
I guess there'd be a lot of challenges coming, from land dentistry onto a ship. The limited space, where do you set up? As you said, the rocking movement of the ship. You got to accurately predict how much things you'll need, because when you're out there, if something happens,
Yep.
It is what it is. You've got to work with what you've got. So all these innate challenges that you have, and I guess a lot of it comes down to what you need is experience. I guess that's why a lot of people within the Defence Force have all these health checks beforehand, so they you don't. Most people that come in will have decent teeth, will have good teeth.
Obviously, you've got to pass a medical screening before you join the Defence Force. And you're right, because sailors have to pass an annual medical and an annual dental each year. The level of treatment that the dentist needs to do isn't as much as what a civilian dentist would see. Like the sailors are pretty healthy. Yeah, have a pretty good oral health because of that.
Was there any instances where you had to treat someone that had some sort of trauma on the ship, fallen over, smashed their teeth, things like that?
I think the most evasive treatment that we've done is tooth extractions, ulcers, and root canal treatment at sea. But as far as getting smashed in the face and broken teeth and stuff like that, not really.
Pretty good. But even something as, I guess, routine on land as a root canal, all the challenges on the ship, especially with that ship moving with the waves, it'd be rough.
That was definitely challenging. If you can do RCT on a ship, you're a champion. You're doing well.
I guess the drugs would be you'd have a different selection of drugs to what a regular dentist would have. Like a lot of people these days go under for having things like root canals and wisdom teeth extraction and stuff like that, but you don't have that option on the ship.
Yeah.
You're using general anesthetics, like things, I guess, like lignocaine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So how often did you deploy through your 10 years in the Navy? Where did you have the opportunity to travel to?
Yeah, I was very, very fortunate compared to other sailors. I went on numerous deployments, maybe 6, 7 more. Just to give you a bit of a background, this is how it works in the Navy. You get attached to a ship, you get posted to a ship for 2 years, right? And it depends what that ship is doing. If that ship might be doing just exercises around Australia, not going anywhere exciting. It might be, it might do an overseas deployment. Cool. It might actually be in refit where it's in dry dock and you're not going anywhere. It might be, you might come up to the up to Darwin, Northern Waters and do the boat people exercises. It just depends what that ship does. Now, I was very fortunate because I never actually got attached to any ship. I never actually got posted to a ship. I was a fleet traveling dental assistant. So pretty much I would cross deck from ship to ship to ship.
So you go wherever you're needed, basically?
Yeah, so I had a really good fleet PO, fleet petty officer. And the fleet PO's job is to design my activity schedule for the year, my deployments for the year. So she would look at the activity schedule for all the ships and just plan, okay, I can send a dental team on this ship for 6 weeks from this port to that port. I can send a team for a month on this ship. They can leave Sydney and they can come back to Sydney, or they can leave Sydney and then we can fly them back from here. Just stuff like that. We can send a dental team to the Middle East and they can do the return leg. Stuff like that. So I got to go on many good deployments. apart from being all around Australia, I've been to New Zealand, Tonga, Samoa, Singapore, China, Japan, Korea, Guam, India, and the Middle East.
Yeah, you were very fortunate. I know guys that have done 6-7 years in the army and haven't had the opportunity to go anywhere. You know, they've been back to back doing military exercise at Mount Bundy.
Yep. Well, the fleet PO, like we're not going to get sent to a ship that's in dry dock, right? You know, those sailors, they're working on the Navy base. I just come to the Navy base clinic. Yeah, no, it was good in terms of deployments. It was good. You know, and whenever you go to countries like that, you're going to have port visits. You know, that's the highlight of the trip. So I had many nice port visits.
So give me an example of one of your deployments, how long it was on the ship.
Yeah, okay. So we did NEAD, Northeast Asia deployment. That was 3 months.
3 months on a ship's a long time. But what's it like living on a ship for that long?
Well, it is a long time, but your port visits break it up, thank God. What it's like, you're eating, sleeping, and working on things that can kill you. Gas, ammunition, diesel. You're constantly... You haven't got personal space when you're on it. You're always eating together. You know, you're sleeping in cramped places. You haven't got that freedom. You're constantly doing exercises. Like you've got your job, like whatever you are. You might be a stoker, which is like a marine technician, or you might be a greenie, which is like an electrical technician, or you might be a steward or whatever. So you're either a day hand or you do night shift, whatever. But everyone has also got auxiliary duties after as well. And everyone's got to partake in whole ship evolutions. So when you're out there, you're sort of like doing pretend wars, right? So you do manned overboard exercises, you do toxic hazard exercises, you do flood exercises. And these can happen at any time. So you're pretty much working 12-hour shifts. Like you're wearing your uniform all the time. You need to take it off when you have a shower and you jump in bed. It's not like when you're on CV Street, you can finish work at 4:30, 5 o'clock, come home, change. The rest of the day is yours. There, even when I was finishing dental assisting at 4 o'clock, say, you don't change. There's no such thing as change and go relax. No. You're in your uniform because there's always things to do. You got to clean your mess decks, or there might be an exercise that gets called.
Because they do PT on the decks as well, don't they? I've seen videos of them running PT on the decks.
Yeah, on the flight decks in the hangar. There's compartments that are set up as little gyms. Yeah. So you do get free time. You do get free time, but it's not much. When you're out at sea, the focus is on task completion. That's the number one priority. So everyone knows that you're not going to get as much time for yourself, you know. But yeah,
I've got one of my mates. He was on the podcast, Alex. You know, and he tells me they used to go fishing off the back of some of these boats as well.
Yeah, I've heard that. I think that mainly happens on the patrol boats up here in Darwin.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
How about swimming? I've heard of the boat stopping in the middle of the ocean, everyone jumping in and having a swim.
Yeah, swim exes. Yeah, I've partaken in a couple of those. Yeah.
Aren't you worried about sharks and stuff? Like what's the risk involved in those, man? Just put them up in open water and just jumping off.
Yeah, no, you're right. So there's always a person sitting up on the top deck with a star on the lookout. I've never witnessed any sharks. Yeah, I don't think I went in the water at all. It was too cold.
Fair enough. What's out of all the places you've visited for deployments, you've been to quite a few. Was there a certain city or a certain port that stuck out to you?
They were all. I like them each for different reasons. Now, do you want me to go through and highlight what I like for each one? Or
yeah, it's up to you if you feel comfortable. Yeah.
Okay. Well, China I like for the shopping because everything's made there. Right. Japan I love the food. Seoul, when we were in Seoul, Korea, they had their World Expo there, so that was a highlight. Guam is just like a laid back island paradise. I love that, with like old school, like their taxis are like old school cars, like really old school, 1950s.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was cool. India was a culture shock. It's definitely, there's parts of India that are third world, and you get to, you drive through suburbs that are third world, and then you drive through suburbs that are a bit wealthier. There was a bit of a contrast there. That was an eye opener. Or that, just seeing the way people live and what they have to endure compared to what we have. So that was quite humbling. The Middle East, well, I was on a ship the whole time, so I didn't really step out much.
Do you find going to these places, the ports that you did get to go out in and experience some of the culture and visit the cities? Obviously, somewhere like, China, Japan, you stick out. Do you find that you got accepted by these people, or did they know you were there with the military, and were you like frowned upon walking through these places?
No.
Do you ever feel unsafe?
Sometimes you just have to be smart where you go. But the thing is too, it's just like Darwin, like we know when there's a ship in town. So when you're walking around the closest town to a Navy port, they know that you're attached to a foreign ship. I didn't experience any resentment. In fact, everyone that I met was very accommodating, and I knew that because I would always ask a lot of questions. Hey, can you tell me how to get to here, how to get to there, blah blah blah. There's a saying in the Navy: nothing good happens after midnight.
So get home early.
So just abide by that. But see, there's an officer on board. I can't remember their title, but they do our research for us before we reach a port, and then before we reach the port, there's a brief of where you can go, where you shouldn't go, and all the dangers.
Do you live on ship when you're in these ports, or do they? I know, like I've got a mate who's in the Navy now, and he's bloody always in hotels.
Yeah. No, you can, as long as you get permission. Yep, that's fine. You get permission, and as long as the ship knows which hotel you're in, and they can contact you at the rush if they need to.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if you're staying at a port for 2-3 days, there's nothing wrong with staying in a hotel for a night. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea, because it's important to get away from the ship.
Yeah, absolutely, because you have the opportunity to have your own space for a few days.
Yeah.
Because, what do they call it? Cabin syndrome.
Yeah.
Being in, I've never been on a Navy ship, right? I've seen videos on YouTube of the sleeping quarters, and there's like 4 or 6 people to a room, and like you can't even sit up in your bed.
Yeah, no, you can't sit up in your bed now. I think with the new ships that you're making now, the cabins are a lot bigger, and you can sit up and all that kind of stuff. But it is, man, you just want to have a nice shower, a big shower. You just want to be able to sleep in a big comfortable bed. Like you miss those things, you long for those things. You want to be able to sit on a lounge comfortably without getting squashed, watching what you want to watch, like being relaxed. You want to be able to get away from all the pipes are all the announcements on the ship. There's always pipes going on for this, that, and the other. So it's never quiet on the ship, Yeah, so that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's definitely needed, mate, just to have that space, and even for your own kind of mental health and well-being, having 2 or 3 days, away, we'll call it, from the riffraff.
Yeah.
And feel like you've had a little bit of a break, because some of these deployments, as you said, 3 to 6 months long. Back in the day, they used to be 9 months to Afghan. A lot of the army guys are doing, so it's a long time.
Yep, definitely, and I hope there's more emphasis these days on mental health than what there was when I was in.
What was it like when you were in?
Well,
was there's a couple of different approaches to mental health. There's obviously that reactive approach when something goes wrong, and there's a proactive approach where you work on your resilience. You know where your shortfalls are. You know where you're excelling at. Did the Navy or Defence have any programs around that, or was everything like reactive rather than proactive?
Yeah, I would say it was more reactive. I don't recall having any kind of mental health brief pre-deployment. All they do is get you to see it. Like if you do an international deployment, they'll get you to see a psychologist when you return. That's it. There's no when you're on board, right? Apart from your KELIC or your PO, which is like your foreman or your senior sailor.
Is that like a corporal equivalent?
Yeah, sergeant. Yeah.
Yep, corporal sergeant.
Apart from, that's your direct supervisor. Apart from your direct supervisor, like if you've got a problem, right, and you haven't got a good mate on board to talk it out with.
Yep.
The only person you can really go to is your supervisor. If you haven't got a good rapport with them, relationship with them, it can be quite difficult. And if you don't want to go and see your sergeant, corporal, senior sailor, then any other person that's available really is the chaplain. But not everyone wants to. I feel that not everyone wants to go and see a chaplain. Not everyone is religious. Like, people want to go and see someone who's non-denominational.
Yeah, right? Especially for a debrief. They want to see someone outside the organisation.
Yeah. So there's no... the medics get hit hard. If anyone's having a breakdown on the ship, they run to the medics. And I don't know if our Navy medics have had mental health training. It's actually a good question.
Look, I know you were in quite a while ago. When did you discharge?
2014.
2014. So it was quite a while ago. 10 years ago?
10 years, yeah.
So you've been out just as long as you've been in now.
Yeah. Yep, time flies.
So I'm sure things have changed since then, culturally in defence as well as different programs. There's a lot more emphasis on mental health training and stuff now. But it must be difficult, especially when you're out on a ship for so long, like that, getting that cabin fever. Especially a lot of guys join when they're 17, 18, never lived out of home, no life experience. They come into these roles and being stuck in so close proximity to each other, living, like you said, living together, training together, eating together, working together, sleeping together, and not being able to disassociate in that time. It must be hard for a lot of people.
If you're a person that's got a weak mindset, finds it difficult to adapt to change, you will have a problem. Now that I've been out of the Navy for 10 years and I know all about mentorship, I reflect back on my time in the Navy, and you know what? There was no training or coaching or advice on things like emotional resilience, on things like how to have hard conversations, on things like communication, to deal with conflict. You sort of had to wait for it to happen and then go and seek help. And usually the people that you went and sought help from weren't trained professionals. So that's, I don't know if they do it now, but back when I was in the Navy, that was one thing that was lacking. Having good mentorship to prepare you for deployment or just prepare you for work in general. Like how to deal with your emotions, other people's emotions, with the environment, how to be more how to think like a stoic in a way.
Stoicism, it's a big one.
Stuff like that, yeah. Hey, Orestia, I have actually made a few notes here.
Yeah, let's go through them.
Yeah, okay, so these are a couple of points that I think are important to mention. During recruit school in 2003 at HMAS Cerberus, I've sort of already spoken about this, but if you've got a hard time in recruit school, apart from the chaplain, there isn't actually anyone else to talk to apart from your Kellic, your leader, your leading seaman, the one that's in charge of your squad. When you're those 11 weeks while you're in recruit school, you can't have your mobile phone on you, right? Which is I know why they do that. That's good because it eliminates distractions during the day when you're supposed to be working. However, when you do have a bit of free time, it's very important to touch base with loved ones at home. When your phone is locked away, you can't do that. What they expected people to do instead was line up and use the payphone. Right? You got like 300 people, 300 recruits lining up to use like 2 payphones. Like it's not happening. It doesn't work. Like you can't expect people, you can't expect recruits to chew up their time like that and their money. Like let them use their phones for half an hour a night or every second night, whatever it is.
No, that you can't even have a private conversation.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's people there. You got mature age recruits, which are a bit more resilient, but then you got young recruits too that need that support from their parents or other loved ones. So I thought that was a bit harsh. And then when I was going through my dental course at HMA Service in 2005, I did actually experience a bit of bullying from one of the instructors. So, and it was just things like, out of all the people in the class, I was the one who was constantly getting called to his office, and he would do it in front of the other students, just in a very, what can I say, I don't care kind of attitude. We'll come to the window and knock on the window and point at me and give me the finger signal to come here in front of all the other students, as if I was like a servant or a slave or whatever, calling me to his office for petty things. There was once where, how we're talking at the beginning of the conversation about how there's different uniforms for different occasions and different seasons of the year. Well, I actually wore the wrong uniform to class one day by mistake, and I had this sergeant. She wanted me to run back to my accommodation block, get changed, and be back in class within 15 minutes. Yeah, the accommodation block isn't that close. There's no way in the world I could run there, right? Running is just stupid because you're just gonna sweat and stuff. Run there, rip everything off, belts and hats and shoes, and then get redressed again and run back in 15 minutes. And because I didn't make that, they punished me by giving me stoppage of leave. And this stoppage of leave, so it was about 2 or 3 days stoppage of leave, right? And it just happened to be over the Easter break, where I had actually booked tickets to fly to Darwin to spend with my family. So I missed out coming to Darwin. So I was cut. So there was this, I'm definitely not going to use his name. I don't even want to use his rank, but anyway, a senior instructor at the school, right? The one that was always picking on me. And every time there was a complaint against me or something that he didn't like, he would make a note in my personal file. This was just a makeshift personal file that he made up. He got a manila folder with a few bits of paper in there, and that was my personal file. So he would make notes in there, right? And as you know, a personal file is personal information. It's confidential. You don't leave it lying around. He would just chuck it on the bottom shelf of his bookshelf in the office, where anyone could walk in and grab it and look at it. That's how much respect he had for my personal information. And it's supposed to be in a lockable cabinet. Totally unprofessional. But me being younger back then and sort of like new to the workforce, new to the regimental lifestyle, I was what you would call like a scared little seaman. I wouldn't let that happen now. I can tell you that. And when you get into so-called strife, right, they have to do disciplinary action on you. Stoppage of leave was one of it. If you get in trouble a couple of times, they have to refer you to a psychologist just for a consult. That's part of the part of the standard operating procedure or part of the directive.
Yep.
So because I had been in strife with him for a couple of times, he booked me in to see a psychologist. And before I was about to go, before my consult time, he called me into his office, and he had the audacity to tell me what I had to say to the psychologist, that everything's all right. What was he saying? Yeah, everything's okay, blah, blah, blah. He pretty much just wanted me to lie and tell the psychologist that I was happy and everything was great and I was excelling in my course and my instructors were awesome, that kind of stuff.
That's not on.
How bad is that?
It definitely sounds like toxic leadership.
I wish I could go back now, just change things.
I guess in not just defence, in all management positions, it's very easy to exploit those who are inexperienced and young and don't know what their rights are, I guess.
Yeah.
And, what's professional and what's unprofessional in a leader. Coming into these roles, especially something like defence, a whole new environment, a whole new culture. You're doing your best to, I guess, do the job to your best abilities, not stand out too much, not make too much noise. You don't want to kind of be in the spotlight.
Yeah, definitely right. I don't know if it was just his character or whether it was the culture of the defense force back then. Because I'm in mentorship now. I've got a mentor. I mentor other people, and that's goes totally against our integrity. Like, you're supposed, as a mentor, as a leader, you're supposed to help build people up, compliment, don't condemn, support people. He wasn't doing any of those. In fact, he was doing the opposite.
And a lot of people don't realise you don't have to be in a leadership position to be a leader.
Yep, that's right.
You can be a leader for those around you. If you're defence, set the good example.
Yeah.
Help those, around the same rank of you. Leadership, although it starts from the very top and should funnel down, it can also start from the bottom and work its way up to even inspire those people who are above you.
That's exactly right. And he was what you call positional leadership. It was only leadership because of his rank, not because people wanted to follow him. That's the difference.
Yep. Like I said, I've never been in defence. That the closest thing I've come is being an instructor with the Air Force, with the cadets, a cadet instructor, and that's a totally different pathway. Although we might wear a uniform and have PM keys, and that we are not defence. We are volunteers, and it's a youth organisation. But we had one particular sergeant that I remember, and he was a cop. So he was a police officer and was a sergeant with the Air Force cadets. And he used to come to the cadets, he'd say a speech and says, right now, you respect me because of my rank. But I hope when you get to know me as a leader, you'll respect me for the person I am. It's one thing to respect someone for their rank, and it's another to respect them from who they are. Like Heston Russell was on my podcast, and he said he would never, ever call his guys by their last name, always a first name basis.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the exact words he used, but he said when the guys would call him boss, it means he was respected. When the guys would call him sir, it means he did something to piss him off.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And he had that daily check every day from those he was in command of by what they called him. Did they call him boss or did they call him sir?
Yeah, right.
He had those little daily reminders, and that's, I guess you just need those subtle reminders to see how you're going. So
exactly. And at the end of the day, if you've got good leadership skills, it doesn't matter what you wear on your shoulders. So while I was at the recruits at HMA Cerberus, I just undertaking my dental assistant qualifications. You spend several months there, doing both courses. After my 10-year period, when I left the Navy, I couldn't really use my qualifications because they're Navy quals. They're not Australian qualifications framework recognised. That triangle at the bottom of the paper? They haven't got that. It's been removed and they put their own Navy logo there. right? So it's not recognised because what dental does. I don't know about the other categories, the other CAT schools in the Navy. Maybe they follow the TAFE modules exactly, and they are civilian recognised. With dental, what they do is they copy and paste and tweak and change. Like they'll get the dental assistance module from TAFE and change things, change the wording, change paragraphs, change it to suit their needs. So it's not pure, so to speak. So that was one thing that I didn't like, While I was with my deployments too. So as we were saying before, you do your category job. One was dental. Then you've got to be ready for whole ship evolutions, right? And I was also part of the SMET group. So SMET stands for Ships Medical Emergency Team. So I was trained up to be a SMET, which is, I guess, like a low-grade paramedic.
Yep.
Where if there's a disaster on the ship, you attend to all the casualties, you do your triage.
So I'm assuming it's something similar to Army as a combat first aider sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty much like an assistant medic. Or you pretty much do what a medic does in an emergency environment. So the most important being triage and advanced first aid. And it was really good because I got to learn things like how to set up an intravenous line, how to take blood pressure the old school way with a stethoscope.
Yep.
How to do a proper observation on someone. Like, you know how you go into hospital and they'll get up to a machine and the machine does everything?
Yep.
I got taught to do it old school style.
So you're doing blood pressure, you're doing temperature, you're doing pupils, you're
Asking
doing
questions,
rest rate, you're doing heart rate. Yep.
Feel, touch, listen, and asking questions.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was really good. Like, that was definitely an experience and a skill set that would last a lifetime.
And was that a specific course that you had to do for that?
Yeah, you know what it is like. Yeah. I did. I had to go and do a course. I don't know how long it ran for. Maybe 2-3 days, probably longer. But for some reason, they choose people that are in the health and supply branch, like dental assistants, cooks, stewards.
Yeah, because I've got a mate who's a cook and he duels as a medic on the boat as well.
Oh, yep. So he's probably on a small ship, like maybe a patrol boat up here in Darwin. They've got dual roles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Actually, no. The patrol boats have got a full-time medic. But I think like PTs, physical trainers, they've got more than one role. Coxswains have got more than one role.
And coxswains are the police of the Navy. Yep, Naval Police. Yep.
So you know how the Army's got military police?
Yep.
The Navy's got coxswains. Yeah. Oh. I definitely didn't step out of Navy dental being a sharp dental assistant because they don't work in a sharp way. Man, when I joined my first posting, they were still making bookings, pen and paper in a diary. And you change a booking, you got to erase it, grab the eraser and you erase it and stuff like that. Like old school, like back on what we call Civvy Street, civilian practice, everyone's using proper electronic booking platforms. And we're still using a diary, a pencil. In Civvy Street, everyone's got electronic files of all their patients' records. We're still using pretty much like just a hardcore manila folder style that you got to write in and then put it in the filing cabinet. And if you want to chase up someone's documents, you got to go look for them. You can't just bring it up on computer. Like, it's old school. I would have found it hard to transition. Just say I left the Navy and I went to work at your brother's dental practice.
Yep.
It would have taken me a while to get up to speed because your brother's dental practice, and just like every other dental practice, they're a lot more advanced technologically than what the Navy is. It's old school. And not just that, because in the Navy, in private practice, time is money. You're dealing with customers that pay. So you don't want to take too long. You want to be efficient. In the Navy, that doesn't exist. You don't pay in the Navy, so you don't really get trained to be to be an efficient dental assistant. The treatment in the Navy is a lot more. It's sort of like you don't need to look pretty to work on a ship, so they'll do just the foundation work, just just to keep you functional, and they preferred to do a lot of amalgam fillings and stuff like that compared to civilian dentistry, where that's a lot more tooth come fillings, and they'll spend a bit more time on aesthetics.
Yep.
Whereas in the Navy, it's just
make it look nice and match colours, that sort of thing.
You're functional, you can go.
Yep.
So you don't learn in the Navy. You don't learn everything that's in demand in civilian practice. Yeah, in civilian practice, there's a lot more demand for not just having functional sound teeth, but also good looking teeth, aesthetics. Yeah.
And I suppose you don't do a lot of the cosmetic stuff. You miss out a lot of that they do in the civilian world.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I assume you'd if there was something like that to happen, it'd get referred to a specialist.
Cosmetic dentistry is a no-go in defence. There's no way they'll pay for it. It's a waste of money, unless you can claim that it's causing mental issues. Unless you go to a psychologist and get.
Sorry, we've got a helicopter overboard. We're outside. It's our first outside recording session today, so we're in the beautiful wet season heat.
You're making it sound like giving me a hard time. I'm sorry, man. Next time we'll sit inside. That's okay. No. Yeah. Okay. So the treatment plans that they do in civilian practice are not the same as what they do in the Navy. Just reading my notes here. Let's go back to mental health, because I know it's a hot topic and we should discuss it.
Absolutely.
So in regards to keeping mentally healthy, keeping your sailors mentally healthy on deployment, they don't really do anything while you're on the ship, right? You've got a chaplain on board in case people want to see him, but not everyone wants to see him or her. I don't know, can you have female chaplains? I'm not sure.
I believe so.
So all they do is you have a post-deployment counselling session. There's no other support on the ship. There's I've got a couple of instances here that I want to talk about. I remember once I was on HMAS Manura, right? I was helping. I was doing a LASEX trip.
What's a LASEX trip?
Yeah, that stands for Life at Sea Experience. Well, it's not a proper deployment, right? I was still a seaman in training, a sailor in training. I hadn't even gotten my first rating.
So this is just basically so you can go on the ship and kind of customize yourself to what it's going to be like when you go.
Exactly. So you might spend a day in the galley with the cooks. You might spend a day in the medical department with the medics. You might spend a day with the bosuns doing watches up on the bridge, etc., etc. So I remember I was in the galley that day, which is the mess deck, the kitchen, what you call the kitchen, right? And I was cleaning up. I needed a garbage bag, so I went into the actual galley and started opening up all the drawers to look for a garbage bag, right? The chief cook on board saw me in there, didn't recognize me, didn't know what I was doing, and he was like, it's like, hey, get the F out, like that. That's how he spoke to me. I was like, whoa, that was a shock. There was this other time where I was lining up in the cafe, the area that you eat on the ship. It's called a cafe, right? Junior Sailors Cafe. You line up to get screened. I was lining up. I stepped back accidentally, and I stepped on a petty officer's foot. Right? I was just young, just a seaman. And he looks at me and he goes, "You're effed," like that. Like, these are people that are supposed to be. These are people in leadership that are supposed to be your coaches, your mentors, right? People that you look up to that are supposed to be training you while you're on board. You know, and he turns around and says, "You're effed." So I mean, I don't like swearing. I've actually. I know it would sound a lot better if I did swear, but I've actually stopped. I actually stopped swearing a long time ago, and I don't swear anymore. Okay, so
how did that make you feel being on that ship? You said you're pretty much a junior sailor seaman at that time. Someone turn around and go, "You're effed."
Look, it's embarrassing. it's degrading, belittling. Like when you're new to the Navy, when you're new to a ship, when you're with a new work crew, man, you need all the support you can get. You want them to be accommodating. You want them to take you under your wing and make you feel valued, make you feel like you're positively contributing to the operations of the ship. Make them. You need to feel like you're part of the team. When someone says that to you, responds like that, reacts like that, that's because the Navy's all about reacting, not preventive or they don't know how to respond. Navy's we're just all about reacting like that. When someone reacts that way, you just don't want to be there. You don't want to be there, and it's like wow, like especially when no one steps up and says anything. It's sort of like gotta just take it on the chin and fend for yourself. Yeah, no, it's not good.
So all up, you spent 10 years in the Navy. At what point did you get to thinking like my time is up? It's time to make that transition out to the civvy world.
Yeah. Well,
what brought that on?
Yeah. My partner at the time, I got tired of being away from her, and so I was in Sydney for 7 years. I didn't like living there. I found it too congested. I got over the winters. I didn't have the same sense of freedom in Sydney as what I do in Darwin. Like here in Darwin, everything's 10 minutes away, 5 minutes away. There's a lot of nice outdoor activities that you can do here in Darwin that don't require much preparation, that don't require much travel time.
Yeah, forward planning. When I go camping, we just get ready and we go.
Like, you and I organised this, and it happened so easily. You're killing two birds with one stone. You were just up the road in doing another activity, and now you're here. Things get done. It's a much easier way of life. Initially, in the early years of my Navy journey, it didn't bother me too much. But as I was getting towards year 6, year 7, year 8, year 9, 10, I started to miss, or I guess you could say, the comforts of living in Darwin. The upper level was far from the tree, and my partner at the time, she was from Darwin as well, so it just made sense we both wanted to come here. But the thing was, I actually wanted to stay in the Navy and be here, but because dental is such a small branch, there's only like one posting here in Darwin for a dental rate, and it's very hard to get. So I thought, you know what? I did actually do some after-hour study on my own time while I was in the Navy and got a couple of diplomas under my belt. So that was my preparation on leaving. So I'm like, you know what? I've got my diplomas. I've done 10 years. Let's go back home. And that's how I discharged, and we came back. One thing that I should have done was I should have lined up a job before I actually came back, because I came back and I had a period of unemployment, which wasn't good. It was okay because I had an emergency fund to keep me going, so I was okay in that respect. But it's not nice being unemployed for a certain period of time. Before I got out, I remember the Navy, it organises discharge information sessions for people that are discharging. So I remember going to one of those, and they ran for 2 full days. They were very informative. They spoke about everything, a lot of things to prepare you for your transition to civilian life. Everything from finances, mortgages, tips on how to apply for jobs, accommodation, etc., etc. That was very informative. But one thing I wish the Navy would have helped a lot more was giving people time while you're at work to be able to leave work and go to interviews and spend whatever time you need to prepare, like to secure a job before you discharge. Like me coming to Darwin, right? It would have been nice if I could have personal time during the day without having to use my own leave to be able to call employers in Darwin, liaise with them, send emails, maybe have a phone interview during working hours. The Navy didn't really accommodate that. And if you asked for it, if you asked for it, it was like, well, not really. You're supposed to be at work. If you want to do that, take leave. If they can introduce a period of, I don't know what you call it, transitional time, a few hours a week for people, specifically for people to be able to liaise with employers in the hometown that they're going to discharge to, that would be a massive help. Because let's face it, shops close at 5, businesses close at 5. You can't work all day in the Navy, go home, and then try and communicate with your employer.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it difficult.
Yeah.
How did you feel coming out when you finally came to Darwin, leaving an organization where, you had a rank, where you sat, into the civilian world where, for lack of a better word, no one cares what you've done. A lot of people are entitled. How did that feel for you coming out of that and losing that tribe?
Initially, I felt free. Like, wow, I don't have to wear my uniform every day. I don't have to shave every day. I don't have to be regimented. When I first got a job, my first job out of the Navy, you go into your workplace and you're like, man, these people don't follow rules. Man, there should be an SOP for this, and there should be a work instruction for that. And why aren't they having a morning huddle? They're asking me to use this machinery. They haven't even trained me on it. It's like the first aid kit is like, there's not even a first aid kit here. You're like, why are these civilian, when you step into private practices, they seem so unprofessional compared to Navy. Like, that's one good thing about defense. Like, health comes first, safety comes first, rules and regulations are adhered to, they're respected. There's directives for everything, there's SOPs for everything. Communication is big in defense. Safety is big. A lot of the private practices, like in the Navy, for example, get the job done, but get it done safely. If it's not safe, you don't do it. Whereas in a lot of private practices, it's just like, just get it done at whatever cost.
Especially in a lot of trades these days.
Right? So, like, after being in the Navy for 10 years, you come out and you're like, what, man? Like, this vehicle hasn't had an inspection. It's overdue for its inspection. Like, I can't believe I'm going to, it's got bald tires, and no, I'm not going to drive it. Just so many, you go from working with guidelines to pretty much to environments where there's no guidelines, they just focus on the finished product. Yeah, that's one of the big things that I noticed. Can
you tell me one moment through your career in the Navy that has been one of the most memorable for you?
Look, I'm just going to be honest. The thing that I love the most were the port visits in other countries. I did feel that Anzac Day feels a lot more special when you're wearing a uniform. I was proud to while I was in the Navy, I was proud to say that I'm in the Australian Navy, and now that I'm out, I still am proud to say that I served in the Australian Navy. So I did have a sense of pride. Most memorable, yeah, just when you're out on deployments and basically just being in the Navy, even though you're not at war, you're still serving your country.
Absolutely.
That's the way I like to see it.
Look, anyone that goes in the Defence Force, whether it's Army, Navy, or Air Force, whether they join at a time of peace or a time of war, they sign the same bit of paper that is up to and including their life.
Yeah. I need to actually remind myself of that a lot more. That I actually did serve Australia. Yeah, that's my proudest moment.
Is there any advice that you'd give for people wanting to join the Defence or join the Navy? Is there any tips that you'd give them?
Be prepared to be away from loved ones for long periods of time. If you can't handle that, or if that's going to hinder your relationship, then don't join or reconsider. You don't join. I don't know what the pay is like now, but when I joined, you didn't join for the pay, you joined for the lifestyle. The Navy is just a government job, right? It's a Department of Defense. It's just like a government job. Yeah, you might go out and sleep out in the field, and you might go out on deployments on ships, but at the end of the day, you're a public servant, right? Just with a different uniform, with a rifle in your arm. That's where you are. So you're only gonna climb their corporate ladder promotions and skill sets are all going to be Navy. Whatever you do is going to be Navy. And I think that you can join the Navy and build such a great skill set, and don't think you're not going to develop. You're going to develop your personal development is going to be biased towards the Navy, whereas when you're on CV Street, your personal development will be a lot more universal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it depends what job you go in at. Like you said, a lot of these jobs that you go in don't have a civilian qualification attached, so you get out. A lot of these guys that have done infantry, even a lot of the SF guys, they get out and they don't have any civilian qualifications, you know? And it's sad to see. Yeah.
I'll give you an example. If I had stayed in the Navy, I would have still had a fixed mindset where I've got to keep going. If I want better paying conditions, I've got to keep getting promoted. But since being out of the Navy, my mindset has gone from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset in such a way where I no longer rely on a job to survive and to be happy. When you're out of the Navy, when you're out of that, I guess that environment, you only know what you know. When you're out of the Navy, you're exposed to different things, and you have the opportunity to grow personally. And to give you an example, like now, I'm actually working on stepping away from the workforce altogether. Like I've got a job, like I've got a full-time job, but I'm only using it as a stepping stone. It's just a temporary form of income while my ongoing income is replacing it. It's going to replace it. I'm going to be financially free, and then I'll be able to live the life that I want. That probably would have never happened if I was in the Navy, because I wouldn't have been the people that I hung around with most of the time were other Navy people.
You have limited opportunities.
Yeah. Whereas being in private practice, you change your association, and you've got more of an opportunity to change your association. So, yeah, that's my experience, and that's something to think about. Like a lot of people, I was never a lifer. You know, a lifer is someone that joins the Defence Force at 17 years of age and stays there until retirement age. I was never a lifer. Some people want to be. I mean, if your military super can support you after retirement age, then go for it. But times are changing.
Make sure, Michael, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us today and sharing your journey. It's been a great insight for someone that hasn't come in from a combat role and's done something completely different, dental assisting to your transition out. It's been really inspiring hearing your story. So thank you.
But it's my pleasure, mate. Thank you for considering me and making the time and effort to produce a podcast on my experiences. It actually means a lot, and I can't wait to hear the finished product. I can't wait to tell my mum and dad and my loved ones and my girlfriend about this podcast. So I actually feel honoured. Thank you very much.
All good, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for tuning into the Priority Zero podcast. We greatly appreciate your dedicated listenership. If you are interested in being featured as a guest on our show, we welcome you to reach out to us through our official channels on Facebook or Instagram. Alternatively, you can contact us via email at contact@priorityzero.com.au. We value your support in helping us spread these compelling stories to a wider audience. Kindly consider liking and sharing these episodes, as it plays a crucial role in our mission to reach as many people as possible.